So these are from the show, obviously, that's right here in the gallery. And this piece, which is actually titled Once a Tree, is another series that I've been working on for a while, and a lot of this show actually revolves around this idea that, again, I think that sometimes we don't stop and think about how much nature is a part of our lives every day, and particularly trees. So with this series, what I'm trying to do is really bring our awareness back that this thing that you're touching was a tree. Now it's something else. And you know what? In a matter of time, it will become something different yet again. So that's where the title came from. You know, ephemera means fleeting, and that's exactly what this is. This show, every day that it's in there, is going to be slightly different because people are going to be handling it, they're going to be touching it, they're going to be adding comments to the floor. So it's never the same, it's constantly changing. And I actually love that because I always find that I think it gets better. You know, everything that visitors add to it makes it better. It makes it more encompassing. And suddenly we start learning each other's stories. And I think that that's really important. And I think it's really great that I can have a little role in making people do that. These are all, if we were going to classify these, most of these pieces would be called artist books. And I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but like a lot of times you say books, people immediately think, oh, covers, papers. Well, artist books are kind of a wonderful thing that I love because basically it's a back cover and a front cover and whatever you want in the middle. And it kind of works really well with my style. You know, as I showed you in the previous slide, my work's kind of everywhere. With the artist books, I can incorporate photography, I can incorporate poems, I can incorporate little sculpted pieces, everything. So it's really, I would say probably the category I'm most comfortable with being put in. Oops. So the other thing that's been happening is as I've been on this journey, I still find that just having work in a gallery is almost still not enough. That I still feel that I need to try to reach people in other ways. People that are different than are going to actually take the time and come and visit a gallery. So that's where I've been really broadening my outreach as much as possible. Obviously, to get my PhD, I had to do a dissertation. The only people that would probably ever read dissertations are the people who have to. But there was a lot of good material in it. I knew it. I just felt that it was. But I could not expect anybody to go and pick up this thing and go through it and find the stuff that was in there. So I've been in the process recently of really distilling it and making it more palatable. And I actually figured out that it really couldn't be one book. It's ending up being 9. They're all small, they're thin, but it's like, it's broken out. So I actually took the chapters and I've been breaking them out into little individual books. So Tree Rings, which the cover is here, is actually the first one that's just come out. And it's really just a lot of what I've been talking about here. It talks about my process, it talks about my journey as a brain injury survivor, and it talks about trees, it talks about the actual physiology of tree rings. There's a lot of information in it, and hopefully it's one of these things that you can pick up, and again, it'll bring more people in awareness of thinking about the trees, thinking about how they literally allow us to survive. Without them, we would not have enough oxygen on this planet to live. They're incredibly important, and unfortunately, I think we just don't pay enough attention to them. I also do talks, like I am here. I do workshops. Sometimes I get requested by places to come and teach. So I've actually taught on an organic farm in Litchfield where I live. We do drawing and painting classes. People can just pop up and show up and go out into the field and do things. I've done installations at I did 2 shows at Rockefeller. They asked me back a few years after my first show. I did one at Black Rock Forest several years ago where the work is actually spread out over miles. You actually have to hike the trails to go see the pieces. The show at Rockefeller's, when you went into the gallery, it was very sparse. And it was like, all right, you want to see the work? Here you go. And what I was trying to do there specifically was to send people on trails that they normally don't go to. There are certain trails there that they always go to. They're well worn and everybody knows them, they do. But there's so many gems on that property that people did not bother to go to. And so that was a big part of my goal with that show, was to make people make the journey. So it was kind of a commitment to go to those shows. One of my favorite stories, and because they're not here, I could actually tell this story. When I was at Black Rock Forest, I don't know how many of you are aware of where that is. It's in New York. It's up near Storm King Mountain. Beautiful place. And I was really fortunate. Paul Winter did a music segment as part of the exhibition, and we had the Wolf Cry Singers there doing a drumming thing. It was just a magnificent event. The whole weekend was wonderful. But 2 of my friends who are directionally challenged decided that they were going to visit all the pieces that were on the property at Black Rock Forest. And again, they were miles and miles in. And there's no cell phone service out there, okay? It's spotty at best. It might be better now, but when that show, there wasn't. And there really wasn't good like GPS on your phone or anything like that. So it was in the fall. Sunset was going to be about 6:30, and I get a call about 5:15. They got to a spot where their phone rang, and they called me in a panic because they had no idea how to get back to their car. And they're like, "Can you help us? Can you help us?" And I'm like, "Well, where are you exactly?" And they're trying to describe it. So, what was the last piece that you saw? So we were doing this whole thing. Well, happily, you know, they're not here because they're not here anymore. They are here. They made it out of the woods and everything. But you know, it is kind of interesting to do that. And they were, you know, they're still my friends, which is amazing. They still talk to me. So this one's easy. All you have to do is go down the hall and go into it. So there's a pretty big range of things that I do. I also did an alphabet book with Organic Farm, which was fun. We actually purposely picked words that you wouldn't normally expect in an alphabet book. Just this whole idea of let's do more complicated vocabulary with young children. Why not? And it's all tied to images that I shot on the farm, which was just a really delightful experience doing that. And then, so where's it going? I never know, but I needed cheesecloth. I was short on cheesecloth to do one of the scrolls. So I ran to Joy Fabrics. I really shouldn't tell you how few days ago it was because that's a little, you know, I really should have been doing it sooner. But anyways, I'm in Joy Fabrics and I'm waiting to speak to the woman who I could ask if they have cheesecloth because I visited like 2 other places and nobody has cheesecloth because I didn't know it, but it's a seasonal fabric. So it's most available in the fall in case you're ever looking for it. So the woman who was selling the fabric was actually talking to this other woman, and so I'm waiting there patiently, and I pull out my little samples of cheesecloth because it also comes in different weaves. I needed a certain weave so you can actually read the text that's on it. And so the friend was turned, she said to me, she goes, what are you looking for, cheesecloth? I said, yeah, I'm looking for cheesecloth. And she goes, oh, I have so much of it. She goes, but it's at my house, and it's not near. I'm like, oh, well, all right. So the woman who works in Joy Fabrics goes, well, that's not really helping us here. And so she started asking me about what I needed it for, and I started talking to her about it, and come to find out, the woman who was visiting her friend in Joy Fabrics lives and works at Sticks and Stones, which is a wonderful place in Newtown, who also has a delightful labyrinth that's in the woods. Oh, and she goes, we're doing an event on the Mountain Worlds on June 16th. Could you put something together for us? Sure. So that's the next plan, is that the tree lessons will be appearing at Sticks and Stones Farm. So hopefully this week I'm going to go out there and pick a location where it's going to be good. She's a dancer, so I'm actually trying to convince her to do a dance with the tree lessons. So to be continued. So before I leave you and I'm gladly take as many questions as possible. I would like to just close with the last few pages from Tree Rings. I was talking a section about my childhood being outdoors. I actually have a picture of my bat mask that I used to wear. And I used to take my sister's roller skating skirt and use it as a cape. It used to make her furious. But, you know, how can you have a superhero mask without a cape? It's just not possible. All of these days spent outdoors were invaluable as they introduced me to the beauty and interconnectedness of our world. Little did I know how rare this type of experience would be for future generations. Unfortunately, playing outside has quickly vanished from the lexicon of most children with the advent of new technologies. This is similar to how the invention of stoves and microwaves led to the loss of the outdoor cooking skills of my great-great-grandmother. There's actually a section in here about my great-great-grandmother who was part Cherokee, who cooked outside. And there's also great recipes from my mom in this book too. Who's a wonderful cook. From industrialization to digitalization, our culture has continued to move further and further away from direct experiences with our environment. Mega food stores, structured play, health clubs, landscaping services, long commutes, and changes in technology have all reduced our interaction with the natural world. Family gardens are far and few between, and somewhere along the way the children have forgotten how to play outdoors on their own and have developed a classifiable condition known as nature deficit disorder. All of these transitions have regrettably occurred at a time when our planet needs our attention and care more than ever. As humans, we tend to think of ourselves as separate and apart from the natural world. But the reality is that we are not only part of it, we are also extremely dependent upon it. We need to continually remind ourselves that our actions or inactions impact the trees, the air, and the water as much as they do ourselves. Chemically laden industrial winds, acid rain, changing weather and climate patterns all challenge the health and survival of trees, animals, insects, and humans alike. The ripples of our influence spread out throughout the planet more than we can imagine. Consider the simple act of walking by a tree on a warm summer's day. Your movement past the tree could possibly stir some of its leaves. As one of the leaves moves, an insect that was resting on it is then prompted to fly off. Eventually, the insect comes to land on a flower and knocks some of the flower's pollen to the ground. The ripples go on and on. Concentric rings spread out beyond what we see and know from the center of just one person's single, simple